Okay, when you hear the word cheetah, what's the first thing you think of? Speed, right? And yeah, you're not wrong. But there is so much more to this incredible animal than just a number on a speedometer. It's a story of some really unique adaptations, some surprising trade-offs, and honestly, a pretty dangerous race for survival.
So, let's start with the big one, the number everybody knows. 93 kilometers per hour. That's about 58 miles per hour, by the way. And that's the fastest anyone has ever clocked a cheetah going in the wild during a hunt.
And yeah, that number is what gives it the undisputed title, the world's fastest land animal. No question. It's just an amazing feat of biological engineering. But here's the thing, as we're about to find out, being that specialized, well, it comes with a pretty big price tag.
And right away, here's our first clue that the cheetah is playing a completely different game. Get this, it can't roar. Not like lions or tigers or leopards. It doesn't have the right vocal setup. And believe me, that's just the first of many surprises we're going to uncover. So here's what we've got on tap. We'll kick things off with what makes it such an unlikely big cat. Then we'll dive into the anatomy of a sprinter. From there, we'll look at its life as a daytime hunter, check out its vanishing kingdom, and wrap up with the long, complicated history between cheetahs and us humans. All right, let's jump right in. The cheetah's identity is, well, it's surprising. This is a cat that's just full of contradictions, and it's those contradictions that set it apart from its feline cousins in some really cool ways. The whole story of the cheetah is kind of hidden in plain sight right here in its scientific name. First part, Acinonyx, that's Greek for immobile nails. It's a hint about its claws, and we'll definitely get back to that. The second part, jubatus, that's Latin for maned, and it's perfect because it describes that little mohawk of fur that cheetah cubs have. Pretty neat, right?
And the weirdness doesn't stop there. Since they can't roar, cheetahs have this whole other range of sounds. They actually purr, like a house cat, but way, way louder. And they also make this high-pitched chirp. You can hear it up to 2 kilometers away. It's perfect for a mom trying to call her cubs. Now, if they're threatened, they'll hiss and growl. So it's like their whole communication style is more about finesse than just the raw power of a lion's roar.
Okay, so let's get into the good stuff. How is this animal's body actually built for that insane speed? Because it's not just about having strong legs. It's a whole package of super specialized features, and every single one has a very specific job to do. And this right here is one of the cheetah's biggest trade-offs. So think about a lion. It's got these razor-sharp claws that pull all the way in, right? Perfect for climbing and fighting. The cheetah? Not so much. Its claws are only semi-retractable. They're always kind of out, and they're blunter. They basically work like the spikes on a sprinter's shoes. They're all about getting traction for those high-speed turns. But the downside to having that amazing grip? Those claws aren't very good for fighting or for climbing trees.
And the acceleration, it's just insane. 3 seconds. Think about that. That is all it takes for a cheetah to go from a dead stop to over 90 kilometers an hour. That's faster than a lot of supercars. And that explosive power, well, it's the absolute cornerstone of its hunting strategy.
So how on earth does it do that? It's a whole cocktail of amazing features. First, the body is super lightweight and streamlined. Then you've got this incredibly long, flexible spine that works like a spring, literally stretching out its stride. That long muscular tail, that's a rudder, helping it make those hairpin turns at full speed. And on the inside, it's got an oversized heart, massive lungs, and huge nasal passages. The whole system is designed to just mainline oxygen to its muscles. It really is a perfectly tuned speed machine. So all of that speed, all those adaptations, they're for one thing, hunting. But here's the catch. Just being fast isn't enough. The cheetah needs a really precise, really calculated strategy to make it work, especially when it's living in a world full of bigger, tougher predators.
Watching a cheetah hunt is like watching a masterclass in efficiency. It starts with the stalk. It uses that amazing spotted coat to blend right into the grass, trying to creep within 60 to 70 meters of its prey. Then, bam, the chase. It's a full-on sprint, but it's usually over in less than a minute. And this is the clever part. At the last second, it doesn't pounce. It uses this sharp little claw on its front paw, called a dew claw, to literally hook the prey's leg and trip it up while it's running. Once it's down, the final move is a very precise bite to the throat. So what's on the menu? Well, its diet is just as specialized as its body. It's mostly going after small to medium-sized animals, things like Thompson's gazelles, impalas, and springboks. Basically, prey that's also fast and agile, but not so big that it can't be taken down. Anything over about 40 kilos, it's probably not going to bother.
Okay, so how well does this all actually work? This chart kind of puts it into perspective. A cheetah's success rate is somewhere between 25 and 40%. That's actually pretty good. It's often better than a lion, which is only successful about a quarter of the time, and it's right up there with spotted hyenas. But, and this is a big but, making the kill is not the end of the story.
Because here's that cost we talked about. After a chase like that, the cheetah is completely gassed, totally exhausted. And that same lightweight body that makes it so fast also makes it really vulnerable. It might have to rest for a half hour, maybe even an hour, before it can even start to eat. And in that window, bigger, tougher predators like lions or hyenas can just walk right in and steal its meal. All that work for nothing.
And this constant struggle to survive, to hunt, to keep its food, it's all being made so much harder by an even bigger threat. The cheetah's entire world is shrinking. It's a sprinter that's literally running out of space. To really get how bad the situation is, you've got to look back. Cheetahs used to be everywhere. They roamed across almost all of Africa, the Middle East, all the way into Central Asia and India, and if you go back far enough, even parts of Europe. And today, they're left with just 9% of that original territory. 9%. That is a staggering, almost unbelievable loss of land for an animal that, by its very nature, needs wide open spaces to survive.
So what's causing this massive decline? Well, it's a mix of things. The biggest problem is habitat loss. Farms, cities, just human expansion taking over their land. That, of course, leads to conflict with people, because cheetahs sometimes prey on livestock, and then they get killed in return. On top of all that, you've got poaching and the illegal pet trade. And to make matters worse, cheetahs have really low genetic diversity as a species, which means they're much more likely to get wiped out by disease. When you put it all together, you can see just how big the challenge is.
And that brings us to the final chapter of this story, which is really about the long, very complicated, and honestly pretty contradictory relationship between cheetahs and humans.
This connection goes back thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians basically worshipped them, kept them as royal pets. Fast forward to 16th century India, and you've got Mughal emperors training them as these elite hunting partners. But somewhere along the line, that respect turned into persecution. By 1947, the very last wild cheetahs in India were shot and killed. But now, in a crazy turn of events, the story's kind of coming full circle. In 2022, there was this massive effort to reintroduce cheetahs from Africa back into India. It's this one little glimmer of hope in what's been a pretty tough history.
So it all comes down to this one big question, doesn't it? The cheetah is this absolute marvel of evolution, an animal perfectly designed for a world of wide open spaces. But that world, it's disappearing. So as this incredible survivor literally runs out of room, the real race isn't about speed anymore. The question is, can our conservation efforts be fast enough and smart enough to help it win the only race that really matters now, the race against extinction?